Hi, I'm Liz Cully, and welcome back to Cool, Cool, Cool. Each week, I give you a glimpse into what I think is cool and chat with a ton of people that are definitely cool. No topic is off bounds unless, I guess, it's not cool. Welcome to Cool, Cool, Cool. I mean, listen, I've interviewed a lot of celebrities, but I'm very nervous right now. I've never had a senator.
Stop.
That's a big deal.
Well, it is actually when you're trying to become one. I mean, we represent about 1 million people.
That's a lot.
It's bigger than Congress. A Congress member represents less people than state senators in California. California is like no other place. You know, we are the nation state.
We are the nation state. Like, what does it mean to be a Californian to you?
Well, I always wanted to be here. You know, I got here as quickly as I could. And I just think it's an incredible place. The story of Silicon Valley, Hollywood, 5th largest economy in the world. And yet we're home to San Diego, where I live and have lived for 40 years, we have the largest military installation in the world. And, you know, it's just the juxtaposition of so many different kinds of people. The diversity is the greatest thing. Yeah. It's a challenge for how we provide services and rise to that occasion, but it's also the thing that makes California so special. California is the place of the future. It's the place of the future. It's where people want to be despite our challenges. And we do have challenges.
Of course. There's no other place like it. I mean, my wife is from Pennsylvania and she always talks about, same as you. I always wanted to come here. I could never see myself leaving. I feel privileged that I was born and raised in San Francisco. I left and came back. I couldn't imagine living in any other state because, like you said, there's so much diversity here. I love to cook. I've worked in so many restaurants, everything from greasy.
I like to eat.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, we'll be good friends. I worked in everything from greasy spoon diners to some of the most acclaimed restaurants in the world in California. And it was that experience in particular has been something I really hold dear because the different types of people that I would meet in those restaurants really were indicative of California.
Well, and San Francisco is the greatest place to eat in the world. I mean, I love to go there to eat and to buy shoes. My
shoes?
Fluvogs.
Okay.
I love Fluvogs.
I love that for you. You know what? I think you are the first person in my life that has ever said they go to San Francisco to eat and buy shoes.
Although I'm a regular person, as I speak, I should say. You know, my shoes are my art collection.
Okay.
But who doesn't love to eat?
Those are fabulous shoes.
Thank you. They're John Fluvogs.
I mean, they're really beautiful and very edgy.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, I started looking at Fluvogs because I heard Lady Gaga wore Fluvogs. And I thought, well, if I wear the same shoes or shoemaker that Lady Gaga does, I'll be cool.
Well, I think you've done a lot of really cool things that Lady Gaga hasn't done that make you uniquely cool. You came to California young, like really, really young. I think with your
24.
sister, 24.
My sister was already here. She was stationed in San Diego. She was in the Navy.
Okay.
Husband was getting ready to leave on an 8-month Westpac, as they do. And she was ready to deliver my nephew, my fabulous nephew, Tommy.
We love you, Tommy.
Thank
Shout
you.
out to Tommy on the pod.
Thank you. He'll love that. Because he keeps telling me, why are you not on podcast? Why are you not on podcast? So this is for you, Tommy. But I moved here to help my sister, but it was an excuse to get to California. So I've been here 40 years. She moved back to the East Coast, but
you stayed.
I stayed.
But so 24, by the time you were 27, you were the director, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, of clinical services at Women Care. That's a very big role to have as a 27-year-old. I mean, when I was 27, I was basically producing rap videos.
That's pretty cool. Are you kidding? That's not easy.
I mean,
that's not easy.
It wasn't easy. It was long nights, let me tell you.
Right.
But that is such an important role. Can you tell me some of your favorite memories from that time?
Well, I went to interview for the job, and it was supposed to be a communications job. I mean, I'm just out of college. I've been in California, less than a year. And it said feminist organization seeks communications. I'm like, okay, I'll go try that. And I went and I couldn't get in the building because they were being picketed and blockaded.
Oh, really?
By anti-choice people. And I thought, I didn't get that job.
Okay.
I didn't get that job. I interviewed. It was a great interview, but they offered it to someone else. I didn't have any experience to do communications, but the director called me back a year later and said, "Are you that woman from Virginia?" And I'm like, "That's me." And I went but I said to myself when I went to interview for that job, I am going to work here because these folks are trying to keep me out. I wasn't even a client. I was going to interview for a job, but they tried to keep me from getting in. A year later, I was hired. I was put through a rigorous training program with a group of wonderful feminists. They were committed to healthcare and information sharing. And I went on to learn everything in the clinic, worked my way up, became the clinic manager. And in 3 years, I was the director of clinic services. And we had a clinic here in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard.
Oh, wow.
We saw stars. I can't tell you who. It was a women's clinic that did reproductive health care.
Right.
We saw women in San Diego at the 2 clinics we had there from Mexico. Some incredible stories. Talk about strong women who came from Mexico to get access to abortion services, what they went through to get to the clinic, because it was the years of the Bush administration and they closed, if they thought someone was coming for healthcare services, particularly reproductive healthcare services, they couldn't get across the border. And so it was a wonderful time. I learned so much, which was my commitment to women's healthcare. So, as I became a legislator, some of the pieces of legislation I've done have been related to abortion care. I was the author of Proposition 1 2 years ago to enshrine abortion rights and contraception into our California state constitution. So, I like to think I build on the experiences, whether lived or work experiences, to do some really important issues close to my heart.
Could you have ever thought that you would be essentially working on maintaining and securing the same rights, particularly in abortion and women's health care, that you did when you were 27? Now?
I never imagined it. Of course, I never imagined that I would get to do that work, which I thought was so great. I grew up without health care. So my family didn't have health care. So, I like to think I work on the issues that were important in my life growing up, things I didn't have, and that then I could make sure not only did I have access, but other people like my family would have access. And no, I would have never imagined many things. Being a legislator, having run a community clinic. No.
You talk about, women having issues coming over the border back then. And we talk about, trying to make sure that women have, access to abortion. We are still dealing with the exact same issues. And that is, they always say, oh, things are like fashion. It's all cyclical. But it's like, I really want to get out of this cyclical political rat race that we're in. And it's so disheartening. Why do you think in this time right now, 2024, we are still so divided on women access for LGBTQ plus folks and women in regards to healthcare?
I think a lot of it is because we gain successes.
Yeah.
And we are facing a backlash. And I think it is really, people think we've gone too far. This is outrageous. This is crazy. We talk about we look at the experience that our trans siblings and friends have. We spent so long trying to be supportive of kids being who they are. I think what it would have been like for me to be able to do that early in life. And we've spent so much time trying to make that support real. We finally have it. And then here they face this wall of a backlash of hatred. And it's just so unfortunate. But that's proof of our success. It's proof of what we've been able to do to expand rights. And as it relates to women and abortion rights, having worked in that world up close and personal in a clinic with women, with doctors and the medical healthcare workers, we knew they would never stop trying. We knew the other side would never stop. I mean, California's had at least 3 in the 40 years I've lived here, has had 3 parental notification laws, initiatives on the ballot.
Right.
So we knew they would never stop. They shifted strategies, and here, lo and behold, we lose Roe versus Wade, the Dobbs decision.
I just couldn't believe that. You know what I mean? I think
I could and I couldn't.
I know. And I think maybe it's because I grew up benefiting from all the hard work that you and your contemporaries did and before.
And people before
me.
and
people before. And I just couldn't comprehend it. It almost feels like it's not real. But it's very real.
It's so real. I read The Handmaid's Tale long before it became a syndicated show. I read the book long ago. That was supposed to be a scary work of fiction, not the playbook for conservative people trying to, send us back into the dark ages.
It's wild. I mean, have you watched the show?
Yes.
Okay, can I just say, it's so dark, but I'm going to speak for myself and myself only. This last season, I actually finally enjoyed some of the moments because I could go into my deep, deep rage. And it felt cathartic to watch. Right. And Elizabeth Moss, is just incredible.
Yes.
I mean, truly, truly.
Very well done show.
It's a very well done show. And it's terrifying and it's terrible.
But what's terrifying is it is real. We are living.
I know.
The beginnings, which is why upcoming elections so critical. So critical.
Prop 3. I just had to vote for again. Talk to us about
terrific.
How is that back? What is going on? Talk to us, Senator.
Well, I think as I talked about Proposition 1 and enshrining abortion into our state constitution, we still have that horrific language from Proposition 8, marriage between a man and a woman in our state constitution. And while marriage is absolutely legal and available to the LGBTQ community, to gays and lesbians, we want to remove that language.
Yeah.
And enshrine the right to marry into our state constitution. Because what we learned from the Dobbs decision in Roe versus Wade is we could lose those rights.
Yep.
And so not only do we want to enshrine marriage equality for our gay community into our California state constitution, we want to remove that bad language. And so that's what Proposition 3 is. I'm a co-chair with Equality California to make sure that we turn out the vote for Proposition 3. And we know that Californians support marriage equality now. We want it out of our constitution because we need to make sure that we're being proactive and protective.
I've met Kamala Harris 2 times in my life, and I will never forget. And the second time was at an Equality California dinner. And let me tell you, woo, she's got the vibes. I was like, do you want to get married right now? I know that you're with Doug, but we could just do this. We could run away together. This was before I was married.
I was just going to say, what would Rachel say?
Rachel would be like, honestly, I get it. Kamala Harris has a electric vibe about her that I have witnessed. And so have you.
Yes.
You got to hang out with her in the Oval Office.
Yes, I did.
Was that wild?
It was cool. I mean, I got to say, we're looking at each other and I'm like, Madam Vice President, and she's like, Toni, you wouldn't believe it. And she starts to share some experiences, what it's like. She said they weren't prepared for a first or second gentleman. How Doug is treated, what she has to do, how they treat her differently. It was pretty amazing. And of course, I got to serve with her when she was Attorney General. And then, of course, the Senate, we supported her. Our caucus supported her the first time she ran for president. So pretty exciting.
Have you been to the White House a lot?
A few times. I wouldn't say a lot.
But a few times is a few times.
My parents would have, another one of those surreal, can you imagine?
That's really on my bucket list. I've done some pretty cool things. Gone to the Magic Castle. That was a joke. Even though that place is cool. Have you ever been there?
I have not. I've heard about it though.
Do you like magic?
Yeah.
Honestly, let's go. I know you can only be invited by a magician. And I
know. That's why I haven't been.
Okay, well, I can pull some strings.
Well, I could pull some strings
for the White House.
Knock on wood. We're gonna.
Well, we have so many people in common that have been before, and I get so jealous. But does it feel like a movie set inside?
Oh, absolutely! I would have never imagined.
Kerry Washington, just like in the shadows somewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
It must feel bright. I don't know why I think that way. Like, is the lighting really bright? White lighting, soft lighting? These are the questions I have.
Well, those are really important questions. I don't know.
Because overhead lighting actually should be something that you work to get removed in the state of California. White, bright, hot, overhead lighting. It's not good for any of us.
We use lamps in my house. We don't
Great.
overhead
That's my
lighting.
girl. Yeah, it's completely
too much.
insane.
Too much.
By the time this episode comes out,
Mm-hmm.
we will probably know who the next president of the United States is.
We may. It may take a while.
It might take a while.
But we'll have some sense of how it feels. And I've got a pit in my stomach as we
I know.
say
I
this.
kind of almost just got a little like, you know, when you see gory movies and you're like, "Ugh," I felt that. I'm like, ugh. It's scary. I mean, listen, I banked calls for the first time in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really exciting and fun for Kamala over the last couple of weeks.
So excited.
But I've never banked calls before.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, you won't be shocked. I do love talking to strangers, but you know what's really hard? Making those calls because I got hung up on a lot.
Uh-huh.
Also, I would try to reach women. Like that was the name on my call. You can't really see, you just see the name and that's it. And so I unfortunately didn't even get through. I didn't get through to a single woman that day. It was either her husband or her son picking up the phone. And, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of information that doesn't get to people. There's a lot of fake information out there, especially on social media, which is horrifying, you know? And that leads back to making sure that we have constant representation and constantly different people that we can hear and see. You were California's first out lesbian speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And first pro tem.
And first, Senate President pro tem. Mm-hmm. Senate leader.
That's a big deal. How did that feel being the first like visibly queer woman in those roles in California?
A lot of emotions. I mean, one thing, I've always followed my passion. I love the work. And you don't always see it until you're looking in the rearview mirror. Sure. And someone says, well, you know, now you're the pro tem, you've done both jobs. You're the first person in 150 years in this day and time. You don't think about it when you're doing it. You do the work. And I've had so much incredible support. The mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, was the second woman speaker in California. And when I became the third woman speaker, also a lesbian, but woman speaker, she called on me and she said, I'll be there, whatever you need, because she had experienced even more difficulty as a woman leader. She was overlooked. She was minimalized. She remembered. And Karen Bass had a kitchen cabinet of women and she gave them to me. She called them and she said, now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to meet with Toni as she's speaker. And so I've been in the legislature 14 years. 12 of those years, I have had this incredible kitchen cabinet of women that Karen Bass sort of gave to me as a woman leader, supporting me. And that's an incredible story. And I've been forever grateful.
You were also the interim mayor of San Diego. That's cool.
Well, it could have been cool, except it was a crisis. I mean, I found ways to make it cool. But it was only like 6 months while we elected a new mayor. We lost our mayor. We lost 3 city council members. There were only 5 of us left. I became the acting mayor. We were changing our form of government from a city manager form of government to a mayor council form of government. So I had to make sure that happened. It was crazy.
That sounds exciting. Well, and also you mentioned this earlier, San Diego is an interesting city in California because I think it really shows, like you said earlier, the diversity of California. Mm-hmm. People have this misconception, and especially what's, you know, misinformation that's put out there about California, that it's this like crazy liberal hippie state. Even San Francisco is actually quite conservative. The way I grew up was I was around quite conservative people for the most part. But San Diego in particular, with the military there, my brother is now retired, but was in San Diego and, you know, in the military. And all of his friends they either were in the military or they worked at SeaWorld. That's a true story. And how did you find ways to work across the aisle? I feel like San Diego would be a great training ground for that.
And it's so odd because today it's totally a blue county.
Is it now a blue county?
Absolutely. all the city council
Oh, thank
members, the
God.
mayor, all Democrats, a majority
Good.
supervisors. No, it's a story. It's quite the story. When I got there, it was more conservative.
Right. Of course.
You know, Pete Wilson, former
God,
governor,
yes.
was mayor of San Diego, very conservative. And when I was elected to the city council, it was about 50-50. It would go back and forth from a majority Democrat, majority Republican. So you had to work across the aisle if you were going to get anything done as a legislator. But, you know, I grew up in a very rural conservative community in Southwest Virginia. My parents were Pentecostal holiness. So conservative.
That's conservative.
I, in my very soul, was never conservative. I don't know. I had no role models, but I became who I became. And San Diego felt to me when I got there in 1985, it was like a breath of fresh air. For me, it was not conservative, although it was.
Right.
It's all a matter of perspective. But since then, it's now a super blue county. But I would say my life experience, having grown up in a very conservative area, I mean, and I know you're right. San Francisco, I've read books on the history of it. It's a pretty interesting place.
It's a really interesting place. It's also interesting, I think, you know, how I grew up and I really grew up around native, old school, multi-generational San Francisco families. And they are not liberal. At all. And but things were so different. And now we are in such an incredibly divisive time, at least in my lifetime, right? I've never experienced anything quite like this. I thought I did the last time Trump ran, but now it just feels like off the chains. It's gone, you know, off the Richter. San Francisco is a really different place. It's even a different place now since I've left 14 years ago. I go home and it feels like a totally different place. But yes, I think California, especially with the ranching families, if you go into the middle of the state.
Central Valley, the far north, very much reminds me of where I was born.
Oh, is that right?
And where I grew up. Very conservative. Central Valley is changing, but I would say that's what's interesting about this state of California. But most people think California is a monolith, and we're not. And in my roles as speaker and pro tem, I think a lot of the success comes from that I've had been you know, fortunate enough to have is because I really understand people,
right?
And how to really have a relationship despite differences of opinion in politics or policy. Now, I give no credence to the divisive, polarized nature that we're in now. But I've always been able to work with Democrats or Republicans, Democrats, progressive, moderate, through my entire career. And that's about relationships. It's about working together. But I've mostly been able to avoid or sidestep those folks that are really, as you say, off the Richter.
Off the Richter, Senator. What in the world is going on with these people? And it's so crazy because, and I learned on my calls, I did sway one guy, sort of.
What did you say to sway him? I want to know.
I talked to this guy, we'll call him Chris. And I was trying to get a hold of his mom. And I said, oh, you know, and this was in Michigan. And I said, how are you? How's it going? You know, this is Liz from California. And, you know, how are you going to vote? Well, I'm going to vote, you know, for Trump all the way because, you know, the border and I'm like, okay. I said, well, what about the women in your life? I don't have any women in my life except for my mother. I said, Chris, I know you want to have more women in your life. How can we work? You know, I mean, that's I try to approach it with empathy. And he said, well, yeah, I guess I do. He said, but all the women I know are voting for Trump. And I said, well, why? Why do you think that? And he said, well, that's just because the way it's always been. And I said, well, it doesn't always have to be that way. I said, Chris, you also don't only have to have one woman in your life. And that one woman doesn't have to be your mom. And then he hung up on me. But I think I got him to think.
Well, I mean, the discussions, I've been walking precincts. Now, I have phone banked. I have to tell you.
You've walked precincts?
Oh, I much prefer to walk precincts. I like to see people. You knock on a door. You've got the information right on your phone.
Senator, I don't want any.
I was with my friend Jared, and we were walking in a county in Georgia, away from Atlanta, a great city. And we were walking, and we knocked on the door, and this man answered the door, and he said, I have been waiting for the other side because I had my Kamala hat on, my Kamala shirt on. I have been waiting for the other side to come. I want to talk to them and they haven't come to my door. So let me talk to you. And I'm like, well, we're on the same side here. But he was so frustrated himself with the polarization and what he sees. So we spent 30 minutes talking to him. And I think we made him feel better.
Great. That's great.
I think we made him feel better.
Yeah.
But I'm like, where's the rest of your family? Because I can tell that you have voted, Derek. And we'll call him Derek.
We'll call him Derek.
And I can tell that you have voted, but your wife, Paula, and blah, blah, blah. He says, I'm working on it. It's going to be done. But it was one really great experience. Now,
sounds good.
We had some other ones,
It's tough. I mean, I think that it's hard for me to imagine being so awful to somebody in person. And that's when you say you like to meet people, you like to talk to people. I think that humanizing people can really help. I think obviously, even since COVID, we've all become really isolated and insular, and we kind of sit on our cell phones or we're on, Zoom all the time. I mean, it's better to be in person.
I like the face-to-face.
I do too.
I've always liked, you can read body language. You can, there's something about being able to do it face-to-face. Of course, when someone really is angry and doesn't like you, then you're like, oh, maybe I should have rethought this. But I've only been kicked off a porch once.
Yeah, I haven't kicked anybody off my porch, though. These lovely, I think they were Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints people, and they scared me and they were very quiet. And I was gardening and I looked up and, there's just like this whole group of women and I just screamed at the top of my lungs. But I didn't kick them off technically. I just said, they were almost like Teslas. Oh, they had no noise to them. I was just like,
it's very true. It's very true.
They really creeped in there, and spreading the word of, whatever. Again, thinking about California and being here, we're almost like our own country, right? We produce so many products. You talk about Silicon Valley. We're really like a futuristic, or looking to the future. Really like it's almost like a mini country, but obviously a state. A lot of people, though, have sort of the same issues that they're going through, no matter where they are, right? It's money, it's taxes. We pay a lot of taxes to live in California, which is why some people leave. Mm-hmm. What do you think California, climate change is a big one for us? We've obviously seen a lot of climate change issues here in California. Everybody's scared of earthquakes. You're not anymore, right?
I'm not going to say that. I'm not tempting fate.
Fair enough, Senator. I grew up, I went through 89. So I was like, we're good.
I was here.
I was here. But we've seen the effects of climate change, not only here, but in Florida. How is our government in California looking to address the issues of taxes, wages, groceries, climate change?
Lots of issues.
We almost are like all of America's issues.
Right here. And I would say California looks at some of these issues. For example, I'll take climate first.
Okay.
We have really taken a hard look at addressing climate change. So I did a bill that addressed sea level rise to kind of help local communities figure out how they're going to harden themselves against sea level rise.
Wait, that's cool. Hold on. I'm going to pause right there. Tell me more about that you like. How do you do it? What do you look at it?
Well, local governments, cities, we have a lot of coastal cities. They actually need resources and support to figure out how they're going to address a rising sea level.
Okay.
As part of climate change.
Sure.
And so that means they have to plan. I mean, this is where your eyes start to glaze over because it's about how you plan to you plan to retreat.
Senator, I think this is really great. Also, one of my brothers is a viral marine researcher. He was the head of viral marine research for the country of Canada. Now he's back in America, in Honolulu. I'm interested in this kind of stuff. So, because it's
California we're looked at as the state that does the most on climate issues. So whether we're talking marine life and how we protect the oceans, because the oceans, help keep the planet healthy.
Sure.
And so when we start to impede on the oceans and mess too much with, the coral reef and fish life, marine life, and we throw our trash there. But sea level rise is one thing that is happening. And we know that communities can be overwhelmed by a rising sea. Yeah. We see this is my district on into Orange County. You see, we have a rail line, the busiest rail line for passengers, the second busiest in the country. And yet our line is very close.
It is.
Right.
Which makes it a really lovely scenic ride, let me tell you.
Very scenic, but at some point we're going to have problems. So we've put resources into addressing that. We've got to make sure that rail line works because it's for military purposes, readiness, mission, goods transfer, and passengers to LA. My spouse, when she goes to LA, she loves to get on the train because she can work.
And have a cocktail.
The whole way. Exactly.
Or however many coffees you want. No, it's actually
true.
fabulous. It's the best way to get between San Diego and LA.
Right, because of the traffic. Oh.
Traffic, but also good for the environment.
Right.
And it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. But sea level rise is one thing. What we're trying to do to curb emissions. I remember when I moved to California in 85 and would drive to LA to our clinic, you couldn't see the city.
Yeah, I know.
That, so we do have a special blend of gasoline, of fuel here that nobody else has. The federal government gave us the ability to set our emission standards as a state. I mean, we have 39 million people, a lot of cars. Southern California, historically loves their cars. So we've had to make changes to try to support the increase of electric vehicles to curb emissions. How we have a special form of gasoline that everyone talks about. We do pay more for that. But now we can see the skyline in LA.
We can breathe.
We can breathe. We do so much to try to advance climate protections. And what we learn when people are polled, when Californians are polled, they care a great deal about the climate.
Yeah.
And we see the results. We've put more resources into fire protection. We've lost millions of trees in California because of fire. We're beginning to see floods. We had floods in San Diego. We've never had floods in San Diego.
Yeah, that was terrible.
So between fires and floods and erosion and mudslides, the state of California has put lots of effort, legislation, and money into climate change. That's one issue. Taxes. Everyone's concerned about taxes. The wealthiest people in California probably pay the most taxes. Middle-income folks and lower-income folks pay less. But we still pay a lot to live here. The cost of living is pretty high. The cost of housing.
It's high.
Huge. Housing, energy, water. We pay for those things. We don't have endless, massive amounts of water to use in California. We may look at the coastline and the ocean, but we don't have drinkable, potable water. We have to work and have a plan to make sure that we have enough water. All those things cost money. Our wages are higher than the rest of the country.
Sure.
But the cost of living here is higher, and it still hasn't kept pace. So you can see we have a lot of challenges. Healthcare. I will say I'm really proud in California. I was elected to the legislature in 2010, the year that we implemented the Affordable Care Act. Or as Obama says, yeah, now that it's successful, nobody calls it Obamacare anymore. But the Affordable Care Act, we embraced it heavily in California, and we've put lots of resources to make sure that people have access to health care, whether it's Covered California, our state subsidized plan of Medi-Cal, Medicare, Medicaid, all of those subsidies, and Covered California, the health plan that we make available to people who aren't low income, but who need access to health care because their employer doesn't offer it. We've made the greatest strides on health care. But what we have to do is continue to work on workforce. So the issues are long. The challenges are long.
You got a busy job, Senator. That's a busy job. That's
addicted to responsibility, I like to say. I like solutions. I love what I get to do.
It's such a special place. It's so important that people love where they live, especially when they represent, did you say 39 million people?
A little more than 39 million. California we've had about 40 million, but it was somewhere between 39 almost 40 million people. I mean, we're the fifth largest economy in the world. There is no state that has the population we do.
Don't you think we could just break off, float out on into the ocean and just do our own thing? Probably not, huh?
Well, that's, I've heard some people say, I can't live there. Earthquakes, California is going to fall into the ocean. No, we set the tone. Yeah. It's why I wanted to be here. It was why California was the place of dreams for me. Yeah. California gave me every opportunity. I told you I was born incredibly poor. I lived in a house with no running water. California was the place of dreams for me. It gave me every opportunity to be in the middle class. Yeah. And I want that to be true for every Californian that wants to. So we're going to deal with those challenges.
Sure.
Have the responsibility to really try to make it better so that everyone has that opportunity to see how special and wonderful California is. And we will continue to be the wave of the future where where new things happen, innovation, new ways to look at and live. That starts in California.
Could you see yourself living in any other place than San Diego in California?
Oh, are you
Maybe
kidding?
Sacramento.
Oh, well, I sort of live part-time in Sacramento. I have an apartment there. But can I just say, California is an amazing place. I mean, we are the state that provides most of the food for this country.
Trust me, I know. It's great. If you haven't been to a California farmer's market, are you living? I don't think so. Actually, have you ever been to the Hollywood farmer's market?
Yes, I have. Yes, I
go
have.
every Sunday, 8 a.m. You'll see me sunglasses on, sweatpants. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to do a job.
Right.
I have the farmers are my friends, but you see people now, it's like tourist attraction. I'm like, get out of the way, man. I got to make sure I get my produce today.
Exactly. and we have the healthiest, safest food in the world.
Yes.
The safest food in the world grown in California. You know what you're getting. You know that protections are in place. I mean, it's an amazing place.
It is. So San Diego's it for you. You have an apartment or you go to Sacramento enough.
I'm in Sacramento enough, but I think one of the greatest things about my next endeavor, running for higher office, is that I'm going to get to visit every part of California and talk to every, residents who think their place is the most special place to live. And I got to say, I have a special place in my heart for Bakersfield. I mean, everybody loves LA. Everybody loves San Francisco. But Bakersfield. I'm a
Senator.
country music fan from way back.
Okay, that makes the Crystal Palace.
The Crystal Palace.
Okay, fine, that makes sense.
Crystal Palace.
Let me tell you, that was a real curveball in there because
I
didn't even put these questions in my pre-approved question list. I did not see Bakersfield coming. But honestly, the entire county of Bakersfield should vote for you just for that. That's
I'm going to work on it. Wait,
I love that. Bakersfield is because of the country music.
Reminds me of home.
It's a
little. I thought you were going to
throw in like a sea ranch.
Yeah.
Have you been to Sea Ranch?
I have. And can I tell you a place that I should have already been to, but had not, that I got to go visit after session this year with my spouse, Jennifer. We went to Mendocino.
Oh,
and
I know.
It was everything I imagined it would be. It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Actually, going back to our original off-camera conversation about New Zealand, where my father's from, Mendocino gives like New Zealand, Ireland coast. You feel like, you're about to fall into a love story and, sit by the fire, have your heart broken and then sewn back up again. I like Mendocino. I also really like Cambria. Have you been there?
Oh, I have. Yes.
Right by Hearst Castle?
I would just say
endless.
Think of all the incredible places. Tahoe. Golly, Big Bear. I know. We could just keep going.
Temecula. Actually, you know what?
Wine.
Wine.
The wine in Temecula. It's coming along.
Well, big things are coming. You are you are running for higher office, which we all need to keep on our radar to vote for you. But also the Olympics are coming to Los Angeles.
Yes, 2028.
Do you know that I have the full map of where everything's going to be already planned out?
Oh, can I have a copy of it?
You sure can. Well, it's online. Yes,
it's online.
But
so I can have access to it quickly.
Speaking of Temecula, that's where all the equestrian jumping is going to be.
Oh.
So I'll meet you there because that's near San Diego.
Yeah.
A couple of just more fun California questions because we've really covered how much you've dedicated your whole career and life to women, trans folks, working class folks, military, all types of folks, which is really, you've represented so many different groups of people, which is California. But I have to ask you some like very silly California questions.
Oh, good.
Because you're a regular person, you said.
Yes.
A normal person.
Pretty much.
It doesn't feel that way because you have a really big job. Taking care of 40 million people is like a big deal.
Yeah. It's fun. Well, you entertain 40 million people.
No, I do not. I don't think I know.
We're expand that.
Okay.
We're going to expand that.
Like 5 stars on the old Apple podcast. Subscribe. Okay. California staples, there are things like burritos or fish tacos, which are so crucial to sustenance in San Diego. What are you going for, burrito or fish taco?
Fish taco.
Do you have a favorite place?
Well, I can't. Yeah,
Okay.
Yes, of course I do. But
you
you know, I'm
can't,
running
yeah.
for governor.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's some great fish tacos in San Diego.
Oh, like the best, actually.
Yeah.
Tennis or pickleball?
I'm going to have to say tennis. I haven't had time to learn pickleball.
Can I bring you in on something?
Yeah.
It's just ping pong, table tennis, live and direct. It's like, you know how you go to a restaurant and people are playing with life-size chess pieces?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically the exact same thing.
I will get there. I'll get there. But I love tennis.
It's a lot of very loud, that
Very loud.
pickleball.
I've heard that.
I just hosted 35 queer women raising money for queer candidates like yourself for LPAC.
I guess I better learn pickleball.
Yeah, you need to,
Yeah,
actually. They're very into it, those lesbians, let me tell you. Basketball or baseball?
Oh, well, I understand we're in the middle of the World Series, but I am a basketball player
Girl
from way
after
back.
my own heart.
Basketball. Caitlin. Is she not something?
I know, she really is. Women's basketball is out of control right now.
Absolutely.
It's very
Isn't
cool.
it about time?
It is about time.
It's about time.
Yeah, I mean, I personally don't want to play sports because that's a lot of energy. Like no running. I don't want to run anywhere. I don't want to do sprints. I still have nightmares about recess, you know, at school where they make you go run a minute. I don't need to run a mile in a minute. For what?
Yes.
You don't. You've got security. I mean, that's crazy stuff. Ice cream or frozen yogurt?
Oh, ice cream.
You know, you're a real one, Senator.
Ice cream. I can't keep it in my freezer. We don't have ice cream. I'll eat it in the middle of the night.
Who's worse, you or your partner?
Me on ice cream.
Oh my God, me too. Do you know that I think I could just eat ice cream for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
What's your flavor?
Oh gosh.
You can pick two.
Neapolitan. That way I get 3 in 1.
You don't want to pick another one too? You can.
Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Wow.
Yeah.
You Bakersfield, chocolate chip cookie dough, Neapolitan.
Isn't
things
chocolate
I didn't
chip
know.
cookie dough sort of, everybody likes chocolate chip cookie
Mine
dough,
is
right?
mint chip and coffee
Oh, okay.
together.
I like that too. I don't turn ice cream down.
Like literally never ever.
No.
Actually, peak flavor is coffee Oreo or mint Oreo. Truly.
I'm old school. I might pick black walnut or butter pecan too.
Butter pecan's a good one. That's a strong. Okay. And then last but not least, skateboard or bicycle.
Bicycle. I could hurt myself on a skateboard.
I know, but that's like so California.
The kids are so cool. I know.
You know what I mean?
It is. And, you know, do I get points for having had skateboard parks built in my district early before it was a thing?
Of all, yes.
It was a thing.
Before
Very
it was a
important.
thing.
You got to have things for young people love skateboarding. You're right. So you got to build skateboard parks.
I think that's the thing. That's what I've loved hearing about your career and what you've accomplished so much because, you know, like literally the sea line, I geek out over that because people don't realize how many hours, love, care, education, and time it really takes to really keep the world running, right? Skateboard parks, trees being planted. I've really gotten into native plants.
Oh, yeah.
Like crazy into it. Like
Well, that's
crazy.
pretty
I
cool.
redid my whole front yard. Like I'm out there at least
Do you like
an
to
hour
visit
every day.
the desert? You know, I came from a mountainous, you know, green
You
area.
mean Palm Springs?
No, I'm a Borrego.
Where's that? I don't even know where that is.
Of course, I love Palm Springs. Who doesn't love Palm Springs? It's a destination. But
I like tennis paradise.
But I like being able to visit the desert and see the flowers.
Oh yeah, very cool.
And I used to think that there was nothing alive in the desert until my spouse said, "Oh no." So we would hike in the desert during the flower season. So we go to Anza Borrego when we can because it's calmer.
Where
in
is
Palm
that? I
Springs.
don't even know where that is.
It's in San Diego County.
Oh, it is.
Other side of Julian, where you get pie.
Oh my gosh. You know what's so funny that you bring that up? I just learned about that place.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, it's a whole town for pie.
Very cute.
It looks very, very cute.
Yes.
Yes, there is a lot of plants and a lot of flowers that live in the desert. I have had to learn how to not overwater native plants because here in California, obviously, we're more in my zone. It's 10.
Right.
Used to be an 8. Now it's a 10. So I have to be very careful, and I love to overwater things. But
I've always overwatered. My mother would fix whatever
So we're the same.
Yeah.
It's a lot of love to give.
Yeah.
Senator, I can't wait to vote for you.
Thank you. I'll remind you. I'll call you.
I'll call. No, how about this? I will remind other people and call for you.
Perfect. That works for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey moms, looking for some lighthearted guidance on this crazy journey we call parenting?
Join me, Sabrina Kohlberg,
And me, Andy Mitchell, for Pop Culture Moms,
where each week we talk about what we're watching
and examine our favorite pop culture moms up close to try to pick up some parenting hacks along the way.
Come laugh, learn, and grow with us as we look for the best tips.
And maybe a few what not to do's from our favorite fictional moms.
From Good Morning America and ABC Audio.
Pop Culture Moms. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.